Hello and welcome to my brand new podcast. I'm Nicky Raby and I'm thrilled that you're joining us. I do lots of things. I'm an actor, coach, writer, speaker and a mum. And in my coaching work, I work with creatives, personal brands, freelancers and small businesses. In this podcast, I want to talk about success, but not in the traditional sense. I want to bring you conversations that discuss success, what it means, and how there are many different versions. We're going to be talking about business, branding, becoming visible, saying no, saying yes, and how you can create a thriving portfolio career doing more of what you love and less of what you don't. Sometimes there can be a certain mystery around the online world, so I'm going to be asking my guests how they started and grew, how they get paid, how they stand out, and how they create success on their terms. As always, please check the show notes for all things we mention and come and say hi over on social media at Nicky Raby or via my website nickyraby.com/podcast. In today's episode, I talk to Erica Davies, who is a stylist, a fashion journalist and a brand consultant. And she has a glorious house, which we all enjoy over on Instagram. But that's not what I'm really focusing on today. What I want to know is how she navigated from having a very high-pressured, very public role in terms of being a fashion editor and how she's carved out this new way of working and this way that she can work on her own terms and grow a really lovely audience and a community, and how she's been able to do that so successfully. So I hope you enjoy the episode. I know you'll love Erica. Here it is. Erica, morning.
Hello.
How are you? Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for asking me.
Oh, what a treat. Well, if people don't know you, would you start just by introducing yourself and telling us what you do?
Yes. So my name's Erica Davies and I'm an ex-fashion editor. So I worked for a variety of different magazines, newspapers for, 20 years. And then I had 2 children, as you do, and didn't really want a job that pulled me away quite so much. So I started to blog after I had my first child, and it grew into something else. And actually, when my little boy was about to start reception, I really wanted to push it and just see if that was something that I could make work. And thankfully, it has taken off. And I've now got an Instagram account, and the blogging's actually become secondary to the Instagram.
Yes, amazing. And it's so funny that that's how it would start, and actually it becomes something very different. I always say that my coaching clients now come from Instagram, and it was sort of one of those things that you just made Polaroid style pictures in the beginning.
Yes.
And how I know those were the days. How did it all begin for you? Because I know we had a chat about, being northern and coming down to the bright lights and big city of London town and all that glamour. Did you know that you always wanted to work in an industry that was maybe not discussed at school? I don't know about you, but we were sort of given estate agent or prison officer or vet, depending on what the quiz was. How did that sort of conversation and idea start for you?
Well, I think I was quite single-minded even as a small child, actually. I can remember being 9 and being very decisive about the fact that I wanted to be a journalist. That was it. And actually, all of my exams, so GCSEs, A-levels, were geared around that one deciding, that decision. So my English was always my strength, and that was something I really wanted to do at university. So that was kind of my navigation towards uni and doing English language. And then I guess when I was always obsessed with magazines and always wanted to kind of combine my love of fashion with magazines. So I thought probably when I was at university, I thought, actually, I'm really going to try and get work experience. It always used to say in Just 17 or the Clothes Show magazine that that was the way to get in, was to just write and ask for work experience. So I used to do that when I was still at uni. Used to get rejection letters, but I'd write back and say, thanks so much for rejecting me. And please remember, anytime you need someone to come and sort out shoes or make tea, I'm your girl.
Love you. Bye.
Love you. I was quite dogmatic about it. I just knew that I would make it happen, and I would just keep bugging people until I could. So I eventually got a break, actually. I won a competition in the Clothes Show magazine. I don't know if you remember that.
I absolutely do. And there was this rumour. I think I went to the Clothes Show and I bought these ridiculous boots from Shelley's, which were highly inappropriate for a 13-year-old because it looked like I had a weekend job, let's just say that. And I remember coming home and my mum saying, you spend all your Christmas money on those and you can't walk in them. What are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
So that popped up, and then what was the competition? What was the prize?
So the prize was you won a makeover on a BBC morning show called Style Challenge.
I remember it well.
Which was presented by John Leslie. And anyway, I won it. And had to go down to London. And basically, this was a whole big plot of mine that I would get in with the producer, who is an amazing woman called Jane Galpin, who I still know, who is still fabulous and still really involved in the industry. And we see each other now at shows, and she just can't believe I'm not that 21-year-old scatty. But yeah, I basically was on the show, but I kept in touch with Jane and I just said, look, would you be able to give me work experience? My whole premise of appearing on the show was that I was a wannabe fashion journalist. So they gave me a look that would work for interviews and things. And that was kind of my first take. And then I moved down to go and do work experience with Jane and her team in London. Lived in Kent with my aunt and my cousins, and commuted in, and my parents, because they're up north and on the Wirral. So I did that for about 6 months, and then I got offered a job on The Mirror because their fashion director was one of the presenters on Style Challenge. So we met, and she said, hey, quite like you, will you come and try out and be a fashion assistant? And that was it. That was my in. I was in.
You were like, I'm taking my shoes off. Here we go.
Taking them off, and I are under the table. I am in here. So that was it. I just worked really, really hard and loved every second of it. And it was a completely different time. Obviously, the whole landscape of fashion journalism and magazine world and newspapers has completely changed. And I just feel very privileged that I worked hard, I proved myself, and I loved every minute of it.
I remember being able to, I think my dad used to give me a £1 for my lunch at school, and I remember to be able to buy beans on toast, and then I'd just take snacks from home. So I'd only spend 19p per day, and the rest I would save for magazines, and I just read all of them and just devoured them. And so
it's so
then,
fun, isn't it?
I know, and I sort of missed them.
Teenagers don't have that now. They've just got social media, and obviously we love social media, but we love it on a different level to a 15-year-old loves it. It kind of offers your soul something a bit different, because I'm not voraciously looking for pretty girls that I can copy makeup on. I want something that appeals to me and is interesting to me. But I feel quite lucky that we didn't have it then, because actually I think I maybe wouldn't have gone down the career path that I went down if I hadn't been so obsessive about magazines.
Absolutely. And that sense of everything is just so instant now, well, Instagram obviously, but that sense of we would save up and we'd be excited about what was going to be in Topshop on Saturday, and it would probably be the same things that were there the previous Saturday after our McDonald's, but and then go and see the latest Hulk Hogan classic, and then get on the bus home, happy days, blind date, gladiators, off we go. So winning. And how did you begin to move up the ranks?
So I was at The Mirror for 3 years, and then I got approached by the features director of The Sun, and she was looking for, and I was 24 at the time, and she was looking for a new fashion editor, and I actually thought she was speaking to me I didn't understand why she was calling me. But she'd seen quite a few things that I'd done at the Mirror and was really impressed, and she wanted to know if I was interested in the job. And it took me a while because I'm from a part of the world that doesn't particularly like the sun.
Right.
And, you know, it was a decision, but I have to say that I was really impressed by her. I loved the fact that there were so many females on the paper at the time who were just kick-ass women. And I met them and I really liked them. The team was fantastic. And I just thought, I'm 24 years old. I'm being offered the fashion editor's role on the biggest selling newspaper in the country. This is a massive opportunity. And I don't think it sunk in for quite a while. It was the weirdest week, though. I split up with my long-term boyfriend who I was living with, moved down to the flat and started as fashion editor of The Sun on the same week.
Wow, that's a novel waiting to be written.
But I think I've always been that person who likes to jump in at the deep end and just see if I could do it. And that was definitely the week that I did. And and I was at The Sun then for 10 years, and I completely changed the way that fashion is viewed there. So when I started, it was very much a single page, a model wearing the latest Ann Summers lingerie. When I left, it was, we had fashion throughout the week. We had 8 pages of fashion. We would work with fantastic photographers. We had a magazine that we shot for. We had trips that we went on. We completely changed the way that fashion was viewed. And I'm really proud of that. And I also think that a lot of the sub-editors sitting on the back bench who probably rolled their eyes when the fluffy fashion lot used to come tottering over, you know, they had a grudging respect at the end that actually I was going into conference with the rest of them and I was holding my own and I was, you know, saying, well, actually, no, the reason I'm suggesting this is because, and you're basically paying me to tell you that. So listen to me.
How do you find that sense in you? Because I know that it can be quite tricky to be that trailblazer who I guess walks outside the lines a little bit or puts their hand up and goes, hang about, let's see if we can shake things up. Have you always had that ability to do that, or are there practical things that you do when you go, okay, I've got to up my game here, off we go?
I think it goes back to that jumping in at the deep end feeling that I do operate on I operate best when I do have a slight anxiety or I have an uncomfortable situation. I feel like I will snap into it. I will almost sort of Sasha Fierce it up as Beyonce does on stage. And I think that it's just something that you have to really pull into yourself to try and, you're kind of looking at the bigger picture and you're thinking, right, what do I want out of this situation? Do I want them to just think that I'm an articulate, confident person who knows exactly what they're talking about, or do I want them to just think, oh, it's the little woman on fashion?
Yeah.
I sort of used to get that sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach when I'd walk into conference and I hadn't prepared as much, but it gave me such a brilliant insight into thinking on your feet and responding to things and picking up on things and running with, maybe 1 or 2 points that you could then pull together. I think over time, practice does give you that confidence to just get on with stuff and to just kind of, it's that inner resilience that you need that will just make it. I mean, it wasn't easy. It was rooms full of men often who had no interest in fashion whatsoever. And sometimes you would get ignored, but you just have to keep going.
Yeah, I witnessed, oh my goodness, it was so interesting. I was working the other day and 2 guys kind of came in like all summer ready, like, hi, yeah, I've got my chinos on, whatever. And they sat down and they were doing an afternoon of appraisals. And immediately I was like, oh, I need to keep my headphones in, but I need to turn off the podcast I'm listening to immediately so I can eavesdrop on this. And it was
And the waiter, who I know, kind of clocked me, and I was like, yeah, I am nosying in on this conversation. But it's such a shame, because I saw a few women in this conversation, and I was almost being that pageant mum of going, go on, no, say more, say what you mean, and stand up for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the thing, isn't it? You don't want them to be pretentious, or you don't want them to be speaking for the sake of speaking, but what you want is for the voice that you're using and the words that you're using to have some point and some purpose, and to actually get them to say, yeah, do you know what? Right, we'll listen to you, and yes, we'll do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was such a brilliant learning curve on so many levels. And I think it's really given me that sort of, even in terms of writing content now, it's always, for me, it's always, what is this offering somebody? What am I giving them with this? I don't want it to just be, oh yeah, here's another great picture of me. I'm not interested in that at all. And it took me long enough to decide to put myself out there. But I think that's my journalist training has just given me that sense of, right, I want this to be something that people are going to be able to take something from.
And that sense of like, what is the angle? Are we, because there's a lot of sort of I don't know, repeat stories or scenarios, and sometimes I do find Instagram a bit samey, because I think, oh no, I've read that, and I don't need you just to say go out and hustle, because there's more to it than that. I need you to give me a plan of action, and I think that's really important. When you first started your blog, what was that transition like, writing for yourself and writing things that you wanted to write about versus being dictated, I guess, by the bigger team and the bigger picture?
I think that is exactly right. It was a sense of, oh, okay, I'm actually editing my own publication now. There isn't an agenda here. There isn't Rupert Murdoch's perspective. There isn't if there isn't my editor's perspective. There isn't 3 feature editors all chipping in and suggesting things. So it was really that kind of overwhelming sense of, oh, okay, I can write anything I want in the tone of voice that I want. And obviously, I think, again, the journalist does click in, and you think you sense check. So I'm thinking, well, I don't particularly want to swear, or I wouldn't particularly want to, I have to make sure that my facts are correct, and all of that sort of stuff goes through my head. But it was a really empowering feeling of, okay, this is me now. This is my voice. I'm not writing in the voice that appeals to a certain audience, which is operated. It's sort of preformed by my editor. I can do this myself.
So yes, and through the growth of the blog and how it's formed, have there been surprises along the way, and has it sort of developed in a way that you weren't expecting?
Yes, I mean, when I started the blog, it was as an outlet for my maternity leave. So I knew what I was expecting. I'd done it before. This was my second child. I wanted a place where I could dump all my creative thoughts, or maintain those fashion contacts by, talking about things that were in store that would appeal to people who are in a similar situation to me, i.e. at home with the kids, but without losing that sense of style necessarily, and without wanting to go down the mum route. And I think that was really important to me at the beginning. And so I incorporated quite a lot of things that I was buying for their bedrooms, or ways of decorating, or really useful pieces of clothing that I'd found in cars or places like that I would generally shop. And over time, it actually became a place where I would maybe write more thoughtful pieces about, I don't know, places we'd been to see. And it became a place for me that it was a happy place during my maternity leave, where the rest of the time we were doing monkey music classes, or, and having that lovely time. But then that felt like me. It felt like a place where I was just able to put all my thoughts, and it actually didn't matter whether anybody was reading it or not, because I was really happy creating the content for it. And I'd sit up there at night and make, mood boards on Photoshop and put outfits together and things. But at that point, it wasn't me. I didn't put myself on there. And I think that was the turning point, really.
And was this quite early in sort of blogging years? Sort of what were people doing this, or did you feel like you were doing something different?
No, I didn't. I felt like I was joining a bandwagon, actually. I felt like there were lots of people already doing it. It was about 7 years ago. And there was already, the big hitters. The mummy blogger world had just started at that point. And in fact, that's what sparked my whole interest in starting the blog, because I'd gone out this was before I went off on maternity leave. I'd gone out with a PR for lunch. And she said, gosh, we're doing so much with mummy bloggers. It seems to be the way that the brand wants to take it. They've really, they've got a great audience who listen to them. And, we think that's the way forward. And it was a light bulb moment. And I thought, I don't want to be talking about breastfeeding, and I don't want to be talking about, your nipples leaking or sanitary pads or anything like that. But I do think there's something in this. And that's why I started it. And I think that's why I felt very happy and very comfortable in that place. But as I say, I felt like I was jumping on a bandwagon. I felt like nobody would read it and it wouldn't be particularly exciting or different, but it made me happy.
Wow. And it turns out that people do quite like it.
Well, the blog, not so much, but I think the blog is secondary now to the Instagram. And the Instagram, again, was a slow burner at first, but it was when I left the Sun after I'd had my daughter. And I went to Look magazine after I'd finished maternity leave. So I was head of fashion and beauty on Look magazine. And so I was very much into the blog at this point. And actually I sat next to, at Look magazine, a lovely woman called Alison Perry, who now writes another mummy blog. So we were sitting next to each other, sort of comparing Google Analytics. And she was brilliant because I was really clueless, but she's always been incredibly savvy about it. And I'd sit there going, what do you think about that? What do you think? Shall I do that? Or shall I? And we just used to have a lovely time. First thing in the morning, we'd both get in there early with our cup of tea and just have this blog chat for half an hour. But it was actually when I left Look that I thought, right, I'm going to take this Instagram malarkey a bit more seriously now. Maybe not just do so many coffees and shoes, and actually think about it. Because that's what I loved as a fashion editor. And my days on the paper meant that I was the art director and the stylist, and I'd come up with the locations and I'd stand behind the photographer when he was shooting and sort of art direct how I wanted the shot. So I've always been very visual. And for me, that's something that apart from the writing, which is my love, I think that is what I absolutely adore doing, is creating an image. And I can do that for myself now.
Yes, the magic of technology. It's so brilliant.
I know.
And how has that been, sort of going from being sort of, well, if nobody reads it, it's fine, to actually being quite public and having a large following and having people who are engaged and responsive and have a vested interest and a real love for what you do? How has that been, navigating that world?
It's almost quite abstract because you don't see them. I think if you were to walk into it, my husband actually said to me, I think when I hit 80,000 or something on Instagram, he said, imagine if they were all standing outside now. And that completely freaked me out.
Yes.
Then on a very micro level, you're just having these lovely conversations and these lovely messages from people, and they'll pop up throughout the day, or depending on how you divide your time up on Instagram, I might sit down in the evening and just answer all my DMs then. Or I'll just respond to comments. I'll try and do it gradually so it doesn't feel like a big process. But then obviously then you're spending a lot more time on your phone. I think if you don't overthink it, then it doesn't become overwhelming. If I was to think about it, then it is incredibly overwhelming that there's all these people and, oh my God, what am I going to say?
Well, it's like standing on Wembley Stadium and saying, do you like my handbag? Hi, Wembley.
No, it's rubbish. Yeah, it's a strange feeling, but it's lovely because I feel that the audience that are following me are really bright, intelligent, funny. They followed me for long enough to get me.
Mm.
And that's actually quite a comfortable feeling. It's odd, actually, when you do get a negative, because it's quite unusual. And you think, gosh, maybe they haven't been following me for very long and they think that I'm really full of myself, and that's why I've put that picture up, and then you start overthinking it, and because you're working from home, you really internalize all these feelings. Whereas if you're sitting in an office and you've got somebody sitting next to you and they're like, oh, sod it, doesn't matter, let's have a cup of tea.
Absolutely. Yeah. Or like, that is totally normal and part of the process, and it's fine. And
but you really do internalize it.
Yeah. Oh, it's so true. And there's nothing like a day on your own, kind of, with all the hanging out with all the voices in your head. Oh my goodness. So fun.
I'm doing this again.
Oh God, it's so hard, isn't it? How did you start to think of it as a business, as in, right, kids, not that you probably would have said that to your own kids, but in your head to the voices, how did you start to think, right, let's see how we can make money from this? Because the reason that I ask is sometimes there's this glamorous thing about running your own business and leaving the 9 to 5, with a sort of Diana Ross 70s tune, like, see you guys, I'm off now to make my fortune. But actually those first stages of business can sometimes be quite hard, and there's a lot of throwing spaghetti at the wall and just feeling a bit confused and overwhelmed, and feeling like your to-do list is never ever going to end, which it doesn't, by the way. But how did that sort of start for you, and what were the first steps you took?
Well, as I say, when I left Look magazine, I really decided to take Instagram more seriously, and with that, the voice in my head was telling me to do it professionally, so to do it in a way that really appealed to my sense of aesthetic, to write captions that reflected the fact that I can write. And I started with that. So that was my mindset. Again, I hardly had any followers, so it didn't really matter. It's one of those sort of suck it and see things. You just kind of go along and take a few pictures, and hopefully you might get 5 likes in your mum, that kind of thing.
And your mum's going, it's lovely, it's great. I'm not really sure what it is, but it's lovely.
Didn't really understand it at that point. Now she's the biggest cheerleader. It's so sweet.
Fastest finger first with that like button.
Yeah, exactly. Oh no, she's a stalker. She never likes, but she'll check in all the time.
Oh, does she? Interesting.
Yeah. Then she'll say, I didn't like that comment, or I didn't like that person saying that, or something. It's really funny.
My mum will sometimes say, do you want me to phone them? I'm like, no, because I'm nearly 37 and it's fine, and I have to take responsibility for myself.
Yeah, it's fine, Mum, honestly. I can cope with this. So I started off with this idea of just, okay, let's make this. So it was never pictures of my kids. I wanted this to be an extension of my job, which was as a fashion editor. So it would be, things that interested me, decor or interior design or really great bargain or, an outfit. And my friends started saying, we really want to see, we like what you're wearing. Why don't you put that on? And I said, because I'm a size 14 mum of 2, and I don't really think anybody has any desire to see that at all. And they were saying, I think you'd be surprised, actually.
Yes.
And so I did tentatively start doing it, really bad pictures, but, did it. And it grew from there. And then I think once you start to actually make your blog a bit more personal, make your Instagram a bit more personal, then brands will take an interest because they can see that people are talking to you and responding to it and asking you questions and engaging. And so it was very, very slowly. I think one point I would make is that if you're going into this expecting to make money, then don't. Because I would say that this process that I've just described in a couple of sentences probably took 2 years of just plodding along, and my husband going, you going to earn any money, do you think? And so I just did and got on with being a mum. My son had started primary school, my daughter was starting preschool. So all those things, life's busy, it just goes on and you've got stuff to do. And then in the evenings, I'd just go up and I'd snap pictures during the day. And then I started being a bit more experimental and trying to put things together. But I would say my turning point was moving out of London. which was just over 2 years ago, actually. But when we moved to where we're currently living, I don't think I'd reached 10,000 followers.
Gosh, it has been quick then.
It's been really quick, really, really quick. And I think with leaving London and not feeling that sense of keeping up with the Joneses and so-and-so's doing it this way, therefore that must be the way to do it. I felt a sense of freedom in, okay, I don't have trendy coffee shops on my doorstep. I do have a house that I'm decorating, and my freelance work does mean that I'm thinking about my wardrobe in a different way. So let's document that.
Yes, that's such a good point of actually focusing on what you can do rather than what is not necessarily available, because it steps you into action and you go, I'm actually doing this, rather than faffing around and weeping because other people are doing X, Y, and Z and you're comparing yourself to them.
I think that, my God, never compare to people. What's that famous thing? Don't compare yourself to people you do not know on the internet.
And when you're in their holiday photos of 2011 and you don't know any of the people on the photos, it's time to step away.
Get out of that rabbit hole.
My friend was actually recognised in Shoreditch once because for some reason she'd been at a wedding that was a friend of a friend, and this woman had clearly been stalking on Facebook. They weren't friends, but recognised her from the picture. It was very weird. It was a very odd experience.
Yeah, that's too much time on the internet, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is.
That is the thing. Comparison is the thief of joy, and it really is. And you have to find your own voice and your own USP, because there are so many accounts that do look very similar, and they're doing the same content and they're going to the same places. And I have actively stepped back from going to, all the dinners and all the events, and because I just want to do something different. I want to try and be something different.
That's so refreshing to hear, because I think also people are looking for the silver bullet that is going to change everything from them. And sometimes the advice will be, go to every dinner that you can. But if that's what everybody else is doing, you have to sort of move out and carve your own path.
I think that's so important anyway, as a life lesson, is just be happy on your own path and be happy to do what you feel comfortable doing. Obviously the fact that I live out of London now and I've got 2 children who quite like me being around, that has a massive impact on what I do say yes and no to.
Yes.
And I tend to have one day in London where I've got the kids in breakfast club and I've got a childminder who collects them after school for me. So that's my full day. I get in early, I have my meetings, I'll do press days, I'll catch up with people face to face, but it's one day a week. And, if I have to come in for more than that, and, I get invited to lots and lots of lovely things. Don't get me wrong, it's a lovely, lovely perk. And when you can, it's great. What I'm very conscious about, again, and it goes back to what are you saying to the people following you? And what I don't want to be saying to the people following me is, I'm so special. I get invited to these amazing dinners and look at this. Just that, what a wonderful life I'm having. Yes, my life is lovely and it's fantastic, but so are many, many people's lives. They just have different things going on. And I just never want to be in a position where I'm making somebody feel really rubbish about themselves.
Yes. And so I think that really kind of comes through as well, because like I was saying before, you just have that warmth on your page. You have that sort of community, that collaboration. And like we were talking about with the book club, it's like, let's all talk about this and let's not me be the expert.
Yeah.
I've found it sometimes when I've done Insta Lives that it's the same people that kindly pop up again and again. But when they sometimes become clients and I meet them face to face, it's so nice because I get to know them as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that, actually. I love that sort of arm clutch it's happening more and more, which is really surreal, but it's also really lovely that, I'll be walking around under the stories on Regent Street or something and I'll suddenly get an arm clutch. I really like your Instagram. I had a hilarious moment the other day. I had to go to a speed awareness course.
Glamour. What were you wearing?
And we sat down, something terrible. And we sat down at these tables, and this girl came and sat down next to me, and I smiled at her, and we had to write our names down, and she just sort of arm clutched, and she just said, "I'm sorry we're meeting like this, but I'm really fan of your Instagram."
That's amazing.
Wow. Okay, we're here. Okay.
Here we are, yeah. I remember when Scunthorpe, my sort of hometown, got, not that I'm a huge footy fan by any means, but we got to play at Wembley. I don't know how we slipped through the net, quite literally, like one time. And it was so weird kind of coming down and seeing everybody you've ever known in your life in like a small proximity that was not in Scunthorpe, and the amount of people that were like, "Oh, hi Chris, you all right?" to my dad. And yeah, it's always bizarre when those moments happen. They're unexpected. Where do you see the blog and your brand going, as it were? I know it's weird to think of ourselves as brands. It's a very sort of new word, but where do you want it to go for you?
It's a really good question. I don't overthink this, because I am a bit of a plan B kind of a person anyway, so I don't put all my eggs into this at all. However, I'm thoroughly enjoying every minute of it. The opportunities that are coming through are incredible, and I'm very, very, very grateful for the people who do follow me and take an interest, and therefore the brands that want to work with me, etc. I'm trying not to spread myself too thin. I think I don't want to be overexposed, or I don't really want people to go, "Oh God, not her again." But I'm really looking at lots of other avenues as well, sort of to give myself a little bit more longevity, whether that's brand collaborations and creating my own products, or I'm talking to people about writing a book.
Lovely.
I know, which is really exciting. And so those are ongoing projects and things that I'm thinking about more, that I would like to have, that would maybe then mean that I'm not necessarily doing mirror selfies, or because I don't know that in a year or two's time people will really want to see 43-year-old me taking a picture, and I just don't know. You just don't know how it's all going to move on, do you? But I am thinking about plan B.
And already, if you're thinking that a year before, like, is this going to happen? Like, I always have to have that sense of, does this thing that I'm doing really light me up, and does it feel good? I sort of check in with that all the time, because as soon as it doesn't, I'm like that kid kind of catching flies, losing interest and staring gormlessly out the window.
Yeah, I think once it becomes a chore, then that's the time that you're going to have to hang your camera up. Or you might see a tide turning with the followers. You might suddenly start getting loads more negativity, and actually I don't think I'd be ready for that. I think I'm too sensitive.
Yes.
And I would just rather shut up shop at that point and just go, "Do you know what? It's really not worth it."
Yeah.
It's sort of that inner protective thing comes out. But at the moment, as I say, it is a fantastic opportunity. I think it would be really, my grandma, bless her, died when I was 26.
Yeah.
And I think about her often, because I do question how I would describe what I am doing with my life now. It's one of the best questions that you get asked all the time, which I do find so funny, because you don't say this to anybody else, is, how do you earn money?
Yeah.
How do you make money? And it's a really complicated question to answer, but you make money. There's money out there. The magazine industry is unfortunately diminishing, and advertisers are having to put their money elsewhere. And at the moment, it's in the influencer marketing world.
Yes. And there will always be money. There will always be a way that people need to get their message out, and so marketing won't go away. And I've certainly found it with acting as I've got older. I will sometimes say to my agent, "Go on, just see if you can get a bit more money," because these days, I know that I'm bringing a lot to the table. Again, I'm so like, "Oh, is that okay to say that?" But I think, yeah, I am. And they always find it. It always comes from somewhere, because the money's available.
I would actually say, don't be afraid to say no to things, because quite often it either wasn't meant to be, or they will go away and try and find more money for you.
Yes.
And that's happened quite a few times recently. I'm turning down an awful lot more things because, you don't, as I say, you don't want to become overexposed, and I don't want to be the person that's advertising every single thing.
No.
So you're more selective naturally about what it is you're choosing. But yeah, don't be afraid to turn down the money, because if it's meant to be, it'll happen. And if it's not meant to be, something better will come along.
Yeah, and there's nothing worse than seeing a celebrity on an advert and going, oh gosh, they've clearly got a tax bill that they need to pay because they're really excited about that yogurt or something. And you just...
My husband always says that. If he sees something, he'll be like, I think his wife really wanted a kitchen.
Yeah. Oh, she's getting an island. Look, they've bought her out for another year. Hang about. Thank you so much for this chat. One very sort of frivolous, lovely question is, what is the next room that you're doing up in your house? What's your next project?
Well, we haven't even tackled upstairs. Apart from the landing, we haven't even started the bedrooms. But I think the next one is going to be the children's playroom, which is downstairs.
Is it like Monica's cupboard upstairs? You know, it all looks gorgeous downstairs, but upstairs it's just that hoarder cupboard of madness.
Have you never heard the term Insta-sham? That's what it is. Things are just moved from corner to corner while you clear the space to take
back
pictures.
up, quick, get that out the shot. And I always do that if I do videos at home. There's always a fire engine. I'm like, oh, I didn't see it until I edit it out.
I know. Or an ironing board, Nikki.
Yes, exactly. I was like, I can't believe I've got an ironing board in the background when I'm with an Insta star, an Insta sensation. If people want to come and find you and read the blog and follow you on Instagram, where should they go?
Oh, well, Instagram, I'm Erica_Davies, IES, and the blog is the-edited.com.
Wonderful. Thank you. I know people are going to love this episode. Thank you so much for your time and your nuggets and just your inspiration and loveliness. We all really appreciate it. And it's such a lovely place that you've created online. And thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nikki.
No worries. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I would love to hear what you thought of the episode and share any takeaways with me. Come and find me across social media at Nicky Raby, or you can visit the podcast page, nickyraby.com/podcast.